Hi everyone, today I wanted to share with you some tips for avoiding publishing scams. So whether you are hoping for a traditional publishing deal or you're going down the self-publishing route, there are scammers who prey on vulnerable authors, and it makes me so angry, and it's always going to be something that I speak up against and push back against. I know how hard it is to write a book. I know how much heart goes into it and how hard it is to sit yourself down and do the work. It's so much goes into it, and particularly if it's your first book. And the chances are that you are somebody who your whole life you've wanted to be an author, and to have that either stolen away from you or in some way tainted is just, it's not okay. And I hate that there are people out there that do this. I think it's disgusting, and I have a few videos around this topic already, but I've never specifically sat down and said, right, this is what can happen and this is how to avoid it. And the reason I wanted to make this video, if you are subscribed to me, you might have seen my shorts about the fact that I had a brush with a scammy publisher this week. So a company called Noble Legacy Publishing, I was made aware they had me listed under their authors. And in a nutshell, very quickly, because I've already kind of made content on this, they had me listed under authors we stand behind. So not explicitly saying that they worked with me or published me. The blurb about me was AI written and actually talked about a different author called Emma Rosen, but with my face. And then they had other authors on there. They had a whole list of books that it said latest releases, so suggesting that these were books that they had worked on, but they absolutely hadn't. Their testimonials were not for real books. Their Trustpilot reviews are AI written. As soon as you start looking into it, the whole website is AI. As I make this video, this website is still up, and please, please, please be careful. I have reported it everywhere I can. I've gone to Action Fraud. I will link below where you can go if you come across any of this. If you're either affected by it, you've lost money or your work is affected in some way, where you can report it, or just if you see it. So I will link below. In the UK, you can go to Action Fraud, and you can also go to Writers Beware. You can go to Ally. I will put all that there. Equally, there are lists online of reputable people that you can work with, and there are ratings online. So Writer Beware is a good one to look at. Again, all of that will be linked below. But because I've been dealing with them and trying to, make that situation not happen, because they are not publishing books. They have claimed to publish 1,000 books. The website's only existed since April, and the company was set up last year. So it's a lie, and they're taking people's money. And I have been contacted by people since I made that content saying, yeah, I almost fell for it, or I have fallen for it, or it made me want to sit and make this video, because if somebody comes across this and it makes a difference, it stops you, falling for one of these scams, and they can be really, really smart, then I really, really hope that this has an effect. So if you are new to publishing, even if you think you know and that you wouldn't fall for it, just watch this video. Just please take on board what I've said. Even experienced authors fall for these things sometimes, so none of us are immune. Now, before I get into sharing with you my personal tips, and please share below anything that you would add to this, things to avoid, I want to talk about the different kinds of scams that exist. So some of them are around publishing, and it will look like a book deal. So you are being offered a book deal for your book, and it's in some way a scam, or not everything that it seems, dishonest in some way. Others will be more along kind of the self-publishing route. So editing, illustrating, marketing, of course, that could be across both things. So being offered marketing assistance, anything where you would be paying for a freelancer, it can turn out that either it's a scam or, again, it's not what you had hoped. So this is kind of how to ensure that your book is published how you want it to be published, and that you have a book that you are so proud of and so happy with, and that there is no horrible tarnish from an unpleasant experience along the way, that as best as we can, we make sure that this is a good experience and that your book is fantastic. So my first tip: be careful when you are asked to pay towards publishing a book. As soon as you are asked for money, the alarm bells should ring. Now, I have made a video about hybrid/vanity publishing before, and I will link that video below and above. But I think this goes even deeper than that. So, as I've said on here before, if you are asked to pay for your book to be published, what's happening is that the publishing company is not taking on the risk. What should happen is that I feel like I talked about the Boundless scandal a few weeks ago, so I know I've said all this, so sorry if I'm repeating myself. But a publishing company should be excited about your book, believing in your book, wanting to take on the risk of licensing your intellectual property so that they make money, you make money, the book is brilliant, it's all a success, wonderful. But they take on the risk because they believe in your book. If they're not doing that, if they're asking you to pay, well, there's no risk for them. If the book does well, they make money, you make money, wonderful. But there is no push for them to make this work. And for that reason, we have a real sliding scale when it comes to any kind of hybrid or vanity publishing. So we have at the top end of the scale, the guys who are open about what you are paying for, what happens. It's an honest process. It's a publishing model that they do. And you are aware of exactly what's going on. Everything is open. The contract is correct. There is no scam going on. And here, for me, the thing to be aware of is that they, as a business model, because they don't have that same push to make your book as amazing as it could be, and because they will publish any book to an extent, they're not as choosy, there's going to be some issues around that business model. However, if you are going into that situation there with your eyes open and you are very aware of the contract you are signing, what you're agreeing to, of course, it's your decision. It's always your decision. But as soon as you've been asked for money, please, please, please be very careful and be aware of the pitfalls of that situation. So some of them exist openly, honestly, legally, everything is okay. Bottom end of the scale is you are asked for money and there is no publishing occurring. You will never receive a book. They're going to take your money, they will disappear. Perhaps the business as it stands vanishes. Perhaps they are no longer contactable. But there was never gonna be a book. The contract you signed stands for nothing. In between, we have a mixture. We have some companies where, they'll publish a book, but perhaps it's going to be really unprofessional and the experience is going to be negative. Now, in the scammy end of that situation, it's really surprisingly easy to fall for. You will be told that this is a new and exciting business model, or you might be told that the publishing industry is struggling at the moment, printing costs are really high, things are difficult, so we're asking our authors to make a contribution so that we can continue to publish books. No. A publishing company, a traditional publishing company would not do that. And therein lies the thing. If they are charading as a traditional publishing company, if they are trying to make out that you've got a book deal and they're not being kind of specific about actually what's really going on here is you are paying to have your book published with their logo on and so forth. That's where the dishonesty is lying. And part of what makes my blood boil with this situation is that when you contact these companies, they're usually really responsive. If you're trying to seek a traditional publishing deal, I've contacted agents, I've contacted publishing houses. It takes ages. They are snowed under with submissions. They are busy people. It takes so long to hear from them. And you don't get an immediate same day, I've looked at your book, it looks amazing. That doesn't happen. You're not immediately being offered a book deal. There's conversations, there's meetings, if they are quick off the mark, they are just, here's somebody, we've got somebody, right. And then what happens is that you get offered a book deal. Oh my God, how exciting. This is my dream. And you sign the book deal and you are telling your friends, it's happened. Oh my goodness. And you're so thrilled. And because your dream is happening, you forget that people are not all that they seem to be and you are duped. So it is exciting, but unfortunately you have to be so cynical because there are so many people out there who can ruin this for you. And so always be a cynic, and no one in the publishing industry is going to judge you for being cynical and doing your checks. So if you're offered a book deal, it should be a book deal. You shouldn't be asked for any money. And to be fair, even if you are offered an amazing traditional publishing, huge, great big publisher deal, if it doesn't feel right, you still want it to be the right thing for your book. So always have in mind, this is my intellectual property and I don't have to be swayed by the excitement of a book deal and somebody telling me that my work is amazing and this is happening. Even if it's the real deal, still have that thought process. Is this right? Is this what I want for my book, for me? But yeah, if you are being asked to part with money, be very careful. Have a look at any kind of payment plan, really, really look into it, because when your money is gone, your money is gone. So number one, as soon as you are asked for money, let those alarm bells ring and start being suspicious and looking into it. And if you do pay, be very, very aware of what you are signing up to. I will say that there is a division there with self-publishing services. So for instance, you either want to self-publish your book or you haven't managed to get a traditional publishing deal and you have no interest in the self-publishing process, you don't have the skill set, you don't have the time, whatever it might be, you can pay for a company to do it for you. So it's still self-publishing, but it's somebody else is doing it for you. And that will be a very honest, open, you know exactly what you are paying for. Again, still be careful, still look everything up before you sign up to it. And actually something to be aware of is that the vanity/hybrid publishers are often using self-publishing route to publishing the books rather than the ones that the traditional publishers would use. And so effectively, they are self-publishing your book. Now, I ran into this quite early in my career. Before my first book came out, I was offered a hybrid publishing deal and I turned it down because at the time I looked at it and thought, well, I could do what you're doing, but I retain the control and I can do what I want with my book instead of having to go with what you want, and you have a very different vision for my book. And I'm not convinced about the way that this would move forward. So again, sometimes what they're doing is what you could just do for yourself. They're not doing the big book deal. So be careful. Anyway, I have talked about that particular one at great length because it's a classic in the kind of scam world. And as I said, there is a sliding scale, which makes it grey, I guess. Personally, I'm not in support of hybrid or vanity publishing in any guise, but I do recognise that there is a scale. So moving on from there, let's think about the research side of things. What can you do to avoid any kind of publishing scam? So whether that's somebody offering to publish your book or whether it is a specific service within the publishing world. So the first thing to do is to look at their website and verify the things that it says on their website. Don't believe anything. Anyone can write anything on a website. As I say, this publishing company I dealt with this week, they had some kind of claim that I in some way worked with them. They tried to counteract that by saying that they admired me and that's why they were including me. And I pointed out that if they admired me, then they would actually know who I am and what books I've written. But the point is that anyone could put anything on a website. Anyone could make a website and put me on it, and unless I know that it's there and I can deal with that, they can do that. They can say they work with me. Anyone can lie. So just assume everybody's lying. This is the cynics video. I'm so sorry. I'm going to make cynics out of all of you. Assume everything is a lie and check. Look at the website and think, okay, what could be a lie here? So for example, if they're listing testimonials, have a look and see whether the people who wrote the testimonials exist and whether they wrote the books that it says that they wrote, because they might be made up. They were on the website I was talking about earlier. Or, of course, the company could be lying, but at least if we find out whether they are real authors and real books, that gives us a starting point. Have a look at any services that are listed on the website and see whether they have genuinely done those services. So if they are a publishing company, are their books published by them? Listed on Amazon, it should say published by whoever. If they are an illustrator, are they on the front cover of some books? If you look them up on Amazon, can you find the books they've illustrated? Can you find the work that they have done? Literally take their website, if they have a website, we hope they do, and assume that everything is a lie and background check it. Is this true? Is this true? Is this true? I would have no problem with you doing that on my website because everything I say on there is true. So you could double check. Yes, I did publish those books. And yes, I do offer a coaching service. And yes, the people whose books I've worked on exist and so on. So have a look at the claims they are making. Don't believe them. Check. Look them up. And that leads on to my next tip. Tip number 3 is ask for references from the people that they have worked with. So if they have a testimonial on their website from a particular author, send that author a message. Oh, hi, exactly as the person did for me, and that's how I found out about this scammy website. Hi, what was your experience of working with so-and-so? Because you might find exactly what that person found who contacted me, that no, it's not real, it's a lie. Equally, if you were going to work with, let's say it's a freelancer, let's say it's an illustrator or something, you want to know anyway. You want an idea of what was the process like, and are you really happy with the illustrations, and would you work with them again, and all of those things. Any professional with worth would have no issue with you doing those background checks. If you're thinking about publishing with a particular company, reach out. How are they? Do you like working with them? Do your research when it comes to contacting the people that they have worked with. If you were going to use me for coaching, I would have no problem with you contacting the people that I have worked with. There would be a slight issue in my case in that I've only got 2 reviews on my website so far. I need to ask for some more from some other people that I've worked with. One you would be able to trace and speak to the lady, and the other one, she hasn't published her book yet, so her book isn't on there. So you wouldn't be able to talk to her and find her publicly yet. But as soon as you can, I will have her information on there so that you would be able to contact her. I haven't done masses of coaching and I always forget to ask for a review because I feel a bit awkward about it. However, the point is I would have absolutely no issue in you looking on there and going, oh, can I contact that person? And then going and contacting them. And I would hope that they would say, oh yeah, no, it's a good experience. And you could get the information that you needed. So it's never going to be a problem. Don't be embarrassed about it. And I will never have a problem with you reaching out to me and asking me about the people that I work with. So ask. Always check. Tip number 4 is that Google or the search engine that you prefer is your friend. So, for instance, at the moment, if you looked up the company I was talking about, Noble Legacy Publishing, yeah, they come up. Then I appear talking about what's happened. So if you simply Google them and go through a few pages, because sometimes it can be buried depending on the SEO, see what people are saying. See if people are talking about them on Reddit. See what's out there. Are there conversations happening? Are there videos that have been made? Because you might suddenly find the references to them being not as you had hoped. Also, you might like to Google their name or the name of their company and add words like scam or review or any search terms that you can think of. And again, see what it throws up. If you're not sure on a publishing company, a good one to do is to look up their name and then put vanity afterwards and see if there's any references to that. And you might find people saying, oh, they are a vanity press, and find some conversation. Be wary of press articles about individuals or companies that are sort of positive, reviewy kind of things. Again, sometimes they're not real, or the person has been paid to say it, or whatever it might be. So don't necessarily trust it because it's an online article. Again, just be wary of anything anyone says on the internet. But it can be a really good way of uncovering a paper trail of, oh, this has happened in the past. Okay. So don't just blindly find your publisher. Because the thing is, if you go onto the internet and you type in publisher, then those scammers are going to be high up. Or if you type in illustrator or whatever, you're going to come across the dodgy ones. So it's always worthwhile not just going on the website and going, oh, this looks shiny. Oh, I'll email them and make an inquiry. Oh my God, they want to work with me. This is incredible. And forgetting to just simply put their name or the name of the company into Google and seeing what's thrown back at you. So far on the research side of things, we've got look on their website and assume nothing is true, and look everything up and verify whether it is true or not. Look for reviews or references and ask for them. Talk to the individual, talk to a human, and then have a little search on the internet. Okay, there is still more stuff that you can do. So you can have a look on things like Writer Beware or Ally, or various different lists online. I will link what I can below. And if they are dodgy, there will be a rating to say that they are. Some of these things can be behind a paywall, so be aware. But there are lists, and if anyone knows any I haven't included, please put them in the comments. But you can specifically look up. So Ally have a trusted people that they work with list, and they have, for another good scam that I didn't mention, is awards. And so you can pay to win an award, and some of them you just win the award. Hooray, my book has an award. It's meaningless and no one in the industry will be interested. Some of your readers maybe will be, but it means nothing. It's just you paid for an award. You paid for a sticker on your book. So some of those are scams, and there's a list on Ally of those and which ones are real and good and which ones are scams. So yeah, you can find published lists of those. My next tip is to join some writing Facebook groups for your genre or whatever. I'm in some children's books ones, and ask on there. Go onto a Facebook group. Hi, I've been approached by whoever, or I have found whoever. Anyone know anything about them? And you might find some people saying, oh yeah, don't go near them. Or yeah, I worked with them, they were amazing. Now, in one of the groups in particular that I am in, there are constantly people talking about particularly illustrators that they've worked with. So because it's a children's book Facebook group. So people go on there and they say, oh, I worked with this person that I found on the internet, and the illustrations are terrible quality, or it's all AI, or whatever, and as soon as you're in those kinds of groups, you suddenly see, oh wow, this is happening all the time, and it starts to develop your cynicism, which is key here. So even just being in those groups can be helpful, but nonetheless, being able to post in there before you sign anything and say, hey, anyone know this person? And that can be a really great way to find what people's experiences are. Because some people obviously might not publicly say that they've worked with that person, but they might have done, or that they've had a brush with them and they haven't publicly talked about it. So put it on there, see what people say, and and look at the ones where other people are posting, and keep your eyes open to the crazy stuff that goes on out there. The next thing is look at their social media. So hopefully they have some. Any reputable professional will have some kind of social media presence. We all have our preference. So I'm personally mostly on Instagram, which copies across to my Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn and TikTok. And I did have a Twitter, I'm not on it anymore. But you can find my social media presence. Some people only have a very small social media presence, so some people are only on LinkedIn, for example, but there should be something. I mean, if there isn't, still do the other forms of research, but typically people do have social media and they are linking up in some way with the industry and people that they are working with. Now, what you need to look for is, firstly, has their social media been there for very long? If they're a scam, probably hasn't been. Is it about anything? Again, I should have said this when I was talking about the website. If it is all waffle and doesn't actually tell you anything really about what they do, what they stand for, who they are, there's no picture of them as a human being, they don't exist, be very, very suspicious. But yeah, look at what they're posting, look at how long they've been posting for, and then have a look at their followers. Now, absolutely, don't be judgy of someone who's new to the industry and doesn't have many followers, and we all have opinions on what constitutes a big or a small following, but click on who their followers are and see if it is a bunch of authors and illustrators and publishers and school teachers and all that stuff, or is it a load of bots? Have they paid? I mean, again, the company I was talking about earlier, if you go on their social media, they have clearly paid for a social media following. I think their following was bigger than mine, but most of it is not real. So if you drop down the people following me, you should find a whole bunch of real people. So it's a really simple, easy thing to do, just to go on their social media, look at the size of it and drop down that follower list to see who's following them. You know, see who they're following. Have a nose. You can find out loads by looking at someone's social media as to what kind of a person they are, what kind of work they do, the kind of things that they're getting involved in. And actually that might give you a sense of whether they are somebody you want to work with or not anyway. So social media is a really good one to look at. And my very, very last tip. So I've talked a lot about kind of the background research and the trust nobody kind of mindset that you need to have. But the very last one is to be careful what you sign up for or sign up to. So have a look at any contract you sign. What does it mean? What are you agreeing to? Is it real? Does it stand for anything? Have a look at things like payment plans. So for example, if you're working with a freelancer, don't pay them everything up front. Pay them a deposit, and then there'll be a bit when, so for example with illustration, bit when you've seen the sketches, and a bit when you've received everything at the end. That way, if you're scammed, you're not scammed for everything, but have it set out. And then that gives you some recourse as well to withhold payment if there's a problem and say, you know, until you've done this, there'll be no more money. And sometimes that can solve issues where maybe, you know, it's not a scam, but there are problems, professional business problems. So yeah, have some kind of payment plan and evidence along the way that you're paying for specific things. Don't just go, here, have my money, wonderful, because you may well lose it. And as I say, look at that contract and what you are signing. A part of that is if you are signing up with a publishing company, so you are signing away the rights of your book, if things aren't what you hoped, and this could even be if it's a traditional publisher, this doesn't have to be anything scammy, whatever you have signed, think about what if I'm not happy? Even if it was a perfectly professional process, I'm really disappointed in my book, or it didn't sell, or in whatever way I'm unhappy. I was made to make decisions I didn't want to, and I want my book back, or company goes bust. I want my book back. I want my rights back so that I can go with another publisher, I can self-publish them, I can do whatever I want. Look at those clauses. Those are really, really important. How do you get your intellectual property back? So if we go back to what we were talking about at the start, one of the issues is that your work could just be gone. They own your work. You can't do anything with it. That's it. Honestly, it makes my heart just break. That's just awful. So make sure that you know how you could get it back, because it is yours. So there should be some kind of, okay, then if I want to reclaim that, how do I do that? And it might be you have to wait X amount of years. It might be you have to pay X amount of money. But what are those terms? What are you signing up to? And be aware of that. Equally, the same thing exists with freelancers. So for example, the artwork on my books, I have contracts in place for what I'm allowed to do with that. So for instance, it works both ways. If I suddenly made a load of merchandise from the artwork from the books that I've written where Rhiannon Thomas has illustrated them, and I was selling them and making a load of money, Rhiannon would be like, sorry, that's my intellectual property. I've only licensed it to you for the books. And so that would become an issue. I know that if I wanted to do any of that, it would be a conversation with her and a new contract for that specific type of licensing and whether that was okay or not. And sometimes we do. Sometimes we have a conversation where I'm like, do you mind if I use your artwork for this? And she'll be like, yeah, or no. She's never said no, actually, but I've never asked anything inappropriate. But it could go the other way if she was using bits of my writing and I was uncomfortable with that, So we have in place an agreement of who can use what and how we could, extricate from that in any way, any kind of termination of that agreement. Because, for example, what if she had done half of the artwork and I took her illustrations and then I went to another illustrator and said, finish these? There's all these kinds of dodgy things. So from everybody's perspective, have a contract, get somebody legal to look over it. If you know someone or you're able to pay for that, have a contract, check what it says, be happy with what it says, make sure that everything is absolutely watertight and that you know if you are parting with any money, what the process of that would be and how you get out of it, how we go, cancel everything, I don't want to do this anymore. So just all that legal side of things, have that in place as well. So I really hope this has helped. I hope it will help you to avoid the scammers. I think some of them are more obvious than others. And as soon as you are engaging in the writing community online, you will be inundated with emails. You will be offered book deals in your emails. I get swamped with marketing. We will help you with your marketing, and I get those for my YouTube channel and I get those for my books. We will help you get to the top ranking of whatever. Will you now? And your spam filter doesn't always get rid of all of it. And I get some that look really real. I get offered film deals, all sorts of stuff. And you could be blinded. You could see something go, oh my goodness, this is my dream. And then you're just fooled. So personally, I will always do that background check. If I see something come up and go, really? And I will always look into it. Oh, and a last tip related to that, a very, very last tip. If you have been approached via email, so it's not you kind of looking at the website and finding somebody and all of that, you've been emailed and somebody has said, I can help you with this, or I am a brilliant whatever, please work with me, or here's your book deal, here's your film deal, whatever it might be. Very, very simple. Go onto their email address, drop it down. See if it looks like a real email address. See if it looks like an email address that a professional would have, because that's such an easy spot. If the email address is nonsense, it's nonsense. I hope this has been helpful. Trust nobody. Do your research. Just ask other people in the industry. It's so easy to be naive, to be fooled when it's your dream. So please, I really, really hope that this helps. I hope it just helps somebody avoid these horrible practices out there, and just always have your eyes open, because publishing scams are just everywhere as an industry. It's just everywhere. And I had this extension built that I'm sat in, and if the builders had have done half job and disappeared, it would have been really annoying. If they'd run off with my money, I would have been so irritated by that. It wouldn't have hurt me half as much as if someone had ruined one of my books, even if the money was less, because it's your heart's work. It's so wrong. Anyway, thank you. I hope this is helpful. And anyone who has anything to add to what I've said, any top tips or experiences, do you know what? I think sometimes seeing in the comments, happened to me, so helpful. And I've come across them, touch wood, so far. They haven't got me, but they're out there, and it's a jungle out there. So stay safe, Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos like this one, and I will see you all soon. Take care.